Well, hey there, parents. I'm in the studio with my wife, Tracy, and we're talking about the philosophy behind something that we call flex parenting, which is parenting using the resources that we've put together online. Now, if you missed it, go check out the first video where we introduced flex parenting. But Trace, just real quick, give us an overview. What are we talking about when we're talking about flex parenting? What's the goal? What are we trying to equip parents to do?
We really want to equip you parents to just create meaningful conversations in your home. So the flex method is something we talked about in that first video, that you find a topic on our website, that you learn about it together by watching the video, and you use questions to explore it.
Yeah. Okay, so today we're talking about then the philosophy behind it. Really these three core principles behind all of the tools that we have online. Right? The first principle, help us with this, Tracy, is the discovery principle, the principle of discovery. Apply this to parenting young kids.
Right. So the point of having a conversation is that you're teaching your kids to discover the truth.
Right.
So instead of just lecturing them, instead of just hoping that at Sunday school they pick up the lesson that they're supposed to learn, that in the context of that topic and that conversation you have, that they get to discover truth at their age, the way they understand it. So you're kind of walking with them in that conversation to discover the truth that you hope that they find.
And what's the opposite of letting them discover the truth? Cramming it down their throats.
Just lecturing them and talking at them.
And it's so easy as parents, I'm sure you can relate, it's so easy as parents to just want to cram it down their throat, right? Especially the older that they get.
Yes.
And so we're not saying that we're just letting kids discover their own truth. That's not what we're saying. We're letting kids discover the truth of God's word, the truth of God's way, but the way you do it matters. And that's why if you do it through conversations, if you create a culture of conversations, then you might find parents that you're teaching kids how to discover some of those truths for themselves through conversation. Jesus did this all the time. He told parables. He asked questions. He didn't just cram truth down people's throats, right?
Well, and the other piece of it in discovery also is parents, if you have a conversation and you get to hear your child's perspective, you're going to learn more about them and where they are and what they understand or don't understand.
That's right. Discovery works both ways.
Yeah.
Because kids discover truth and values, and parents also have their eyes open.
Right.
And that's just the nature of mentoring, is everybody grows when you start doing it in an intentional way.
Right.
And parents, that's what those tools are about. So then that leads to the second principle. The discovery principle leads to the principle of ownership. Taking ownership. We're trying to teach our kids to take ownership. Help us with this one.
Yeah, so as they discover the truth and as they're kind of wrestling with that through your conversation with them, that's going to create more ownership on their part to realize, okay, what does that mean for me behaviorally? How do I incorporate that in my life, even as an 8-year-old?
Right.
That's where things are going to start to take root for our kids. It's not that you're just telling them, this is why you do what you do. Just do as I say.
Right.
But if you have a conversation and they discover God's truth and how they should act or how they should behave, and then they can start taking ownership as they understand that and put that into their life.
And the opposite of that, parents, think about this in your own parenting. The opposite of that is, nope, I'm going to control everything. But see, parents, listen to what happens, especially among Christian parents, is they control at 5 years old, they control at 8 years old, they control at 12 years old, they control at 15 and at 18. And then what happens?
Right. They're gone.
The kid gets out of the house, goes to college, and this is why 80% of Christian kids bail on their faith, because we never taught ownership along the way.
Right.
And so parenting, the way it should work is you're releasing ownership over time. You're letting kids take ownership. As they get older, they're taking more and more ownership for the way they think, for the way they talk, for the way they act, for what they do. But you're doing it through this discovery. You're doing it by creating this conversational culture.
Right. Absolutely.
So then that leads to this last thing. And this is really what our tools are all about, is the empowerment principle.
Right.
When you teach someone to discover truth and you teach them to take ownership for their part in having the conversation and coming to the table and participating, now pretty soon you can empower those kids to help someone else.
Right. And that would be the goal, right? I think we all want our kids to feel like they could help their friend, they can help their younger sibling. So if you're modeling this idea of flex parenting in your home, where you can have a conversation over a topic and, watch a video and then use questions, like you're modeling something for your kids that then they could replicate in their own life as
Right.
they get older.
And this isn't theory. Parents, we want you to hear this. We have a 17-year-old daughter and a 15-year-old son at home, and they have both been empowered because we've used the tools, we've done flex parenting with them. Now they're both investing in other students. They each have student groups that they run. And we love it because they're the teachers, they're the leaders, and the greatest way to learn something is to teach it, not to
Right.
be taught it. So, but we had that in mind all along, and that's what flex parenting helps us to do. It empowers our kids at some point, and you'll learn more about this later, parents, but at some point your kids can actually go make disciples,
Right.
which is what Jesus wants us to do, every Christian to do.
Right.
That's what Pursue God, flex parenting is all about. It's about empowering kids to own their stuff, to discover, to own, and then to go out there and be the mentor.
Right. You're modeling something for them that they can do.
Right.
Yes.
And hopefully they'll be parents who
Right.
raise their kids with these same principles
Yes.
as well. I want to just show one verse here because this is such a powerful verse. It comes from Ephesians chapter 4, and Paul writes this. He says, "Then we will no longer be immature like children. We won't be tossed and blown about by every wind of new teaching. We won't be influenced when people try to trick us with lies so clever that they sound like the truth. Instead, we will speak the truth in love, growing in every way more and more like Christ, who is the head of the body, his church." And this passage is talking about, really in essence, what we're talking about here is Paul's saying if you can raise up your kids, or in his case, he's saying people in the church, to take ownership and to be empowered to speak truth in love, then you'll find out that they will be so firm, they will have internalized your values and your truth because you didn't cram it down their throat.
Right.
You help them discover it, you let them take ownership for it, and you empower them to go and
Right.
share it with the next person. And that's what flex parenting is all about. So parents, I want you to really consider these principles, this philosophy behind flex parenting. And I want you to take a look at the questions down below this video and talk about this with a group or a mentor and unpack this. And then I challenge you to really start doing this. In fact, maybe check out, if you haven't already, check out those resources at PursueGOD.org. You can also use the resources at flextalk.org to do flex parenting. Check those out and begin implementing it in your home. Now, we'll have other videos to share in our Parenting 101 series just for parents of kids. I hope you'll join us for those. And then at the end of this series, we're going to talk a little bit about sort of next steps and how you see this parenting method as you go from the kid years onto the teen years. So we hope you'll join us for all of these videos.